infinity and beyond.
With Toy Story 5 on the horizon, we decided to take a look back at the series, only to find out that there's, like, way more Toy Story media than we realized. From the movies, to shorts, to even some video games of varying quality. But that variety means you guys get some more entertainment, so sit back, grab whomever has a friend in you, and relax as we rank it all from worst to best in our official Toy Story tier list.
Condition status. Excellent, let's roll.
We'll begin with the stuff that's better left in the attic. These are the few properties from the franchise worthy of the F tier. And while it may seem harsh, we can't think of anything that deserves the bottom spot more than Lightyear. To be honest, this really isn't a bad movie. It tells a coherent narrative, has pretty good visuals, and it has socks in it. In other words, it fits the absolute bare minimum of a functional movie. And sadly, that's the only merit we can give this one. The unfortunate fact is that this movie completely and utterly fails as a proper spin-off to one of the most beloved Pixar characters of all time. Seriously, for a movie based on Buzz Lightyear, of all characters, this movie has some of the blandest visuals and character designs in Pixar history. Not to mention a story that's anything but compelling or funny. In other words, the movie's just plain boring. The final conflict with Zurg/Future Buzz is pretty cool, but that's the nicest thing we can really say about it. Compared to the titular character's role in the movies and even full-on cartoon he had decades ago, Lightyear falls flat in every conceivable way. The fact that little Andy apparently watched this movie and rather than falling asleep instantly decided he desperately needed an action figure of the main hero is the most unrealistic thing in this series. Closing out the F tier already is a dual entry of Toy Story 1 and Toy Story 2 for the Game Boy. This entry begins our slow but steady descent into the always fun world of licensed video games. You never really know if these will be awesome or terrible or somewhere in between, but I think you can figure out which end of the spectrum these ones land on. I vaguely remember playing the second one as a kid, and all I can say is that it's one of those games that suffers severely from its platform. It's hard to tell what's in the background and what you can interact with, much less which characters are even enemies. Like, why are Hammond or Rex trying to kill me? And why are there like 10 of them? You couldn't come up with any other enemy concepts. Also, the game over screen of this game absolutely horrified me as a kid. Buzz is literally dying a slow, painful death as somber chiptune music plays. What the heck was with retro games having the most weirdly creepy game over screens, man? I guess this F tier placement might be a bit biased, but given the fact that these games are confusing and outright frustrating at times, I don't think too many people will be super upset about their placement. So with that, let's move into the more favorable adventures Woody and Buzz have been on over the years. This is the C tier. Kicking off the C tier, we have one, or two actually, of the shortest Toy Story installments, the Pixar Popcorn Shorts. Pixar Popcorn Shorts is a series of short, I mean like really short videos of all your favorite Pixar properties, or some of them at least. 3 of these are themed around Toy Story, one being a non-voice acted video of Buzz teaching some of the other toys how to exercise, and others being part of the long-anticipated Fluffy Stuff with Ducky and Bunny series, which really just stands as an excuse to have Key and Peele argue while voicing stuffed animals.
Why would you make a toy with 3 heads?
So someone just wasn't paying attention in the factory.
These are fine, I guess, just not really contributing enough to justify a higher placement. The same can be said for Toy Story Treats/Shorts. What if I told you, presumably a Pixar fan, that there's a series of little-known Toy Story shorts released in the 90s to complement Saturday morning cartoon blocks? Exciting, yeah? Well, don't get your hopes up. These are basically the Toy Story equivalent of those bumpers you'd see on channels like Disney or Cartoon Network. There's nothing wrong with them, but man, I really just thought I'd stumbled across something way cooler. Oh well, let's go back to the beginning to talk about Toy Story for the Super Nintendo. The best way I could think of to describe this game is think of the Toy Story 1 game for the Game Boy, okay? Now, imagine it being less terrible. It's still not a great game, sure, but it's at least decent enough and has some cool creative liberties it takes with the story of the movie to make for some cool boss fights. Who could forget the iconic encounter with everyone's favorite Toy Story villain, Nightmare Buzz? Of course. But if video games are too brain-rotting for your tastes, well, first of all, sorry, Grandpa, and second of all, Forky Asks a Question might be more your speed. This is another series of shorts released on Disney Plus starring Forky, who's got several questions he needs answered. They have some decent jokes in them, and can even be argued as somewhat educational. Other characters join Forky's quest for knowledge as he asks the tough questions like, what is money? What is cheese? And
what is love?
Baby, don't hurt me. Baby, don't hurt me no more. Next, we have Lamp Life, a short based on the 4th movie that details what Bo Peep was up to in between the movies. To be honest, it isn't that interesting. It's just her standing around some screeching babies and then being displayed at an antique store before deciding, wait a minute, I hate antiques, and blowing the place up to become a lost toy. Exaggerated? Okay, yeah, sure. More interesting? Definitely sure. Closing out the C tier, we have another Buzz-related piece of Toy Story history, Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, for the PlayStation. Not to be confused with the short-lived TV show of the same name. This is the PlayStation game inspired by the spin-off cartoon inspired by the movie. Still with me so far? Okay, good. Now, this game is weird. It has a bunch of stuff to do, from shortcuts to cut your speedrunning time to a bunch of collectibles for replay value, all with the threat of a big bad boss at the end of each level. Unfortunately, it suffers a lot from those early 2000s platforming issues. You know the ones. Crappy camera that you can't control, confusing level design, the inexplicable choice to include a timer in a game that's heavily themed around exploration and collecting, etc. There's definitely the structure of a really good game here though, so we'll give points for effort. But now it's time to start looking at some of the more overtly good Toy Story media, the stuff that contributes to Pixar's first franchise being one of its finest. This is the B tier. That introduction doubles as your formal invitation to Partysaurus Rex. If you're a people pleaser, this is the Toy Story short for you. When the other toys make fun of Rex for being a party pooper, Rex finds his new place with a bathtub full of water toys who lament never being able to party, or even really move unless it's bath time for the kid.
I could get this party started up in here.
Rex comes out of nowhere and saves the day by giving them all the water-filled party time they want, which ultimately floods the house, leading to some pretty fun chaos. There's not too much to say about this one, really. It's just a cute, fun little short that teaches a valuable lesson about never letting your people-pleasing nature cause a natural disaster. Fair enough. Following it is another Toy Story short, Small Fry. Honestly, we're giving this one a lot of points just for creativity. It's surprising that cheap fast food toys weren't explored in the actual movies, so giving one of them the starring role as the semi-villain of this short was a fun choice, even if it's pretty inexplicable how he managed to overpower the real Buzz. It's a fun scenario, and you gotta love that commentary about the existential crisis that is being a duplicate fast food toy. There was always that one you just kept on getting, right? Zooming into the next spot is Toy Story Racer. With versions on both the PlayStation and the Game Boy Color, quite the weirdly specific duo to use, Toy Story Racer is the inevitable result of the Mario Kart craze. Every other marketable property needed a piece of the action, and while Toy Story Racer isn't in a league of its own, it's pretty good as far as Mario Kart knockoffs go. With a solid roster, really creative levels, and visuals that, okay, well, they're not bad by PS1 standards, Toy Story Racer is probably one of the best Mario Kart clones out there. Whether that's saying much or not is entirely subjective, but I stand by it regardless. And closing out the B tier, we have the current newest installment of the main saga, Toy Story 4. Alright, I'll admit it, we were kinda hard on this one in our Pixar movie ranking. I still hold that this is definitely the weakest of the Toy Story films though, so let's start with the negatives before we move on to the positives. Gabby Gabby is the least compelling antagonist so far, and the second half of the movie feels pretty slow in general. There's also Woody's decision to become a lost toy, which feels like a betrayal of both his character arc over the course of the movies and the friendship he's built with Buzz therein. You just don't separate Woody and Buzz, man. But thankfully, there's still more good than bad in this movie. For one, it brings back Bo Peep and introduces the whole Lost Toys concept, which makes for a story that adds a little bit of toy world building and brings back a character who's been completely irrelevant since the very second movie, finally giving her the spotlight she deserves. Now, if they could just bring Wheezy back. On top of that, it has stunning visuals, which is par for the course for Pixar, honestly, but Forky is an endearing addition, and the comedy actually hits pretty well sometimes. Also, Key and Peele stuffed animals. I think that's enough of a case for this being a good movie, even if the previous three were better. So with that, it's time to go to infinity, but not quite beyond yet. Still, the A tier is full of properties worthy of our runner-up tier. Truly a product of its time, Buzz Lightyear of Star Command is what Lightyear wishes it could have been. As short-lived as it was, this cartoon was a worthy spin-off to the movie. It follows Buzz going on actual deep space adventures under the guide of Star Command so we can defeat the evil Emperor Zurg. It just oozes classic cartoon goodness, man. It's well animated with new takes on the familiar character designs, has a pretty solid voice cast. Hearing Joe Swanson's voice come out of Buzz's mouth will never not be funny.
Condition status. Excellent, let's roll.
And just really shows genuine effort to make a show that people who liked the movie would enjoy. It's a shame it's not on Disney Plus though, despite all of that. Like, seriously, are they embarrassed by it? More embarrassed than they are by the $100 million they lost on Lightyear? To each their own, I guess. For now, let's talk about some classic holiday specials, like Toy Story That Time Forgot. Despite being themed around gladiator dinosaur toys, this is apparently a Christmas special. Honestly, points right off the bat for avoiding any cliches with the setting there.
What? This?
We get to see Trixie go through an identity crisis as she teaches the battle swords that there's more to being a toy than just constantly fighting each other. It's a heartfelt story with fun set pieces, and I'll admit, a few toys that would have been so cool to get on Christmas as a kid. It also gave us the adorable, or terrifying depending on who you ask, Angel Kitty. Make of that what you will. From one holiday short to another, next is Toy Story of Terror. While it initially seems like it'll be a typical fake-out haunted house tale, the Sleepwell Motel turns out to be dangerous for the Toy Story crew. No, not because of ghosts or ghouls, but because of a third, much more terrifying type of villain: eBay resellers. When the motel manager's pet iguana, Mr. Jones, finds toys lying around, he drags them to his owner for the sake of resale value. And when he finds Woody and Jesse, he finds himself getting a pretty generous offer from, I don't remember who actually, some chicken man, I think. Anyway, thankfully Jesse's courage, despite her trauma and quick thinking skills, led to the stolen toys being exposed and therefore returned to the rightful owner, marking the second time Al's spirits have been crushed in this saga. Man, I almost feel bad for him at this point. Not too bad though. Closing out the A tier, we have one last dual entry: Toy Story 2 and 3 console games. I placed these as an umbrella entry for two reasons. One, they both have multiple versions, from the differentiation of Toy Story 2's console and Game Boy ones to Toy Story 3 having a more basic 3D platformer on the PS2 and a more open-ended one on the, at the time, current gen consoles. As for the second reason, well, surprisingly, they're really good. These games take the stories of their respective films, spice them up with some creative liberties and faithful set designs, and create experiences that are great for one-time playthroughs or some replay value later on. It's rare for a game based on a kid's movie to come anywhere near genuinely enjoyable, but Toy Story somehow managed that twice, and for that, these games are in the penultimate spot before the final podium of greatness. Now it's finally time to go to infinity and beyond! But first, this video is brought to you by Wicked Binge channel memberships. You can gain access to our videos early before anyone else, plus gain access to members-only emojis and loyalty badges by supporting the channel through a membership. This is the S tier, and with 3 more entries to go, man, I wonder what it'll consist of. Well, first and foremost, we've got a bronze medalist of good in the original Toy Story. The one that started it all, not just for the series, but for Pixar as a whole. And not just for Pixar, but for CG animated movies as a whole. Toy Story walked so that literally any other CGI movie you can think of could run.
What have we done?
And to make matters even better, this movie itself still runs pretty dang far itself. Woody and Buzz make for a great pair of leads, complemented by the side characters to provide some much needed world building and comic relief. It's great to see such a flawed main character as Woody, who, although caring and decent at heart, initially took to Buzz's arrival with jealousy because of just how much he shook things up. On the other end, Buzz is all about self-acceptance and the growth that results from it, leading to 2 of Pixar's best character arcs and one of its best friendships. The sheer imagination of this movie is unrivaled by most other stuff that even Pixar's come up with, and its influence is still felt years and years later. But as great as the original Toy Story is, it only managed to improve over time. The Silver Medal of Greatness goes to the sequel, Toy Story 2. Just about anything you could say about the first Toy Story, you could say about its sequel, and then some. Rather than just focusing on kids, the second movie added the more broad category of toy collectors into the mix, leading to Woody discovering that not every toy is so cut and dry. From Jesse, who is kind-hearted but suffers from a deep-rooted trauma based in abandonment and isolation, man, that's deep for a kid's movie, to Pete, who's willing to be nice as long as he can ultimately be admired after years of going unsold, making him both ruthless and frankly understandable. Toy Story, of all things, shouldn't have world building as good as it does, but lo and behold, this movie does pretty great at fleshing its world and characters out. Equally entertaining is the B-plot revolving around Buzz and the gang going on a mission to rescue Woody, which leads to a lot of fun hijinks, the most memorable of which being Buzz and Rex's standoff against Zurg, not to mention the factory default Buzz Lightyear, who ends up becoming a secondary antagonist for a while. This movie succeeds on a lot of levels, but in the simplest way to describe it, Toy Story 2 is even more fun than the original. It's also the movie that gave us Wheezy, which is a whole S tier worth of credit by itself. It wouldn't be the first time we've said it, but we're still of the opinion that Toy Story 3 reigns supreme. Honestly, the second and third movies are really close in terms of quality. They're both fantastic at fleshing out their lead characters and introducing some great new ones to the world they're in. Toy Story 3 sees further developments of the toys' relationships, as well as a heartfelt conflict between Woody and Buzz that doesn't completely betray the former's character as Andy goes off to college, leading to most of his toys being donated by accident. There are 2 major factors that elevate Toy Story 3 over the first 2, though, in my opinion. The first, and most obvious, Lotso Hug and Bear. Lotso is an awesome villain. He takes the ruthless nice guy act of Pete, but with the added touch of a genuinely gut-wrenching backstory. You can feel for Lotso and remember that he does have a soul deep down, but then you remember that he's brainwashed a giant baby into serving him and is willing to lobotomize other toys to further his goals. That's not even mentioning his betrayal of the other toys at the end of the movie. Lotso is an amazing villain, probably one of the best in Pixar history, but he alone isn't why we place this movie up so high. The real reason Toy Story 3 is the best of the bunch, in our book, is the fact that it just served as the perfect ending. Like the audience, Andy started his Toy Story adventure as a kid, and now, all grown up, it's time for the toys to find a new place with a new owner. In that final scene where Andy says a heartfelt goodbye to his toys and allows Bonnie a heartfelt hello to each of them, you can't help but feel like it's the perfect ending for the series, and even if you argue the fourth movie ruined that, did it really? I mean, now a whole new generation of kids can enjoy the movies, just like new toys being passed down. And if you argue that Bonnie's poor care for Woody ruins it, okay, yeah, let's not think about that right now. Toy Story 3 is goated, and be sure to tune in when Toy Story 5 comes out, because good or bad, you know we'll be ready to cover it. You've got a friend in us, Wicked Binge viewers. Stay wicked, just not lots of kinds of wicked, okay?